I'm standing in a conference room with fluorescent
How
lights
can
that
you
hum like
betray me like
wasps
this
watching my
way?
former best friend confess to manslaughter. I loosened the bolts. Rachel whispers her hand on her pregnant belly. I didn't mean for her to die. I just wanted her car to break down. I just wanted time. My husband sits beside her, his face ashen. The detective takes notes. My lawyer doesn't blink. And I'm thinking about the morning 6 weeks ago when I found my sister's diary and everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and guilt shattered into pieces I'm not sure I can ever put back together. This is the story of how I lost my marriage, my best friend, and my belief that my sister's death was an accident. But first, let me take you back to the beginning, to the night I discovered the affair that would unravel everything. I caught my husband, cheating on a luxury cruise. I was serving their table. I'm standing on the observation deck of the Oceanic Serenity at 3 in the morning, staring down at black water that looks like liquid obsidian under the moonlight. In my hand is a USB drive. On that drive is a video of my former best friend loosening the brake bolts on my sister's car 5 years ago. Video she filmed herself. Video she's kept all this time like a trophy, or maybe like a penance. I have 3 days before this ship docks in Seattle. 3 days to decide if I'm going to hand this evidence to the FBI, or if I'm going to throw Rachel Morgan overboard and tell everyone she jumped. If you've ever had to choose between justice and revenge, if you've ever wondered what you do when the person who destroyed your life is standing right in front of you, trapped with nowhere to run, hit that like button and subscribe. Because this story is about what happens when the universe gives you one chance to make things right, and you have to decide what right even means anymore. Let me take you back to where this began. 2 weeks earlier, Seattle. The apartment I was leaving behind wasn't much. Studio in Capitol Hill, 4th floor walk-up neighbors who blasted music until 2 a.m. But it had been mine. The last piece of the life I'd built before everything fell apart. I stood in the empty space, looking at the water-stained ceiling, the scratched hardwood floors, the window that never quite closed all the way. 6 months ago, I'd been Vivian Harper, CEO of Harper & Associates Architecture. I'd had a corner office in Pioneer Square, a portfolio of high-end clients, and a business partner I trusted completely. Daniel Kim. We'd built the firm together over 12 years. Started as classmates at the University of Washington, became friends. Became partners, both business and personal, though we'd never made it official with rings or papers. We'd been too busy designing award-winning buildings, too focused on creating something that would last. Turns out the only thing that lasted was the betrayal. 6 months ago, Daniel had come to my office with papers I didn't understand at first. Legal documents, corporate restructuring. He'd sold his share of Harper & Associates to an investor I'd never met, a woman named Veronica Castellanos, who apparently had deep pockets and deeper plans. "It's time for a change, Viv," Daniel had said, not meeting my eyes. "We've grown apart. The firm needs fresh energy. Veronica has ideas." "You're leaving me." He'd flinched at the word leaving, but he hadn't denied it. Within 3 months, Veronica had systematically destroyed every contract I'd fought to secure. She'd spread rumors about my work quality, poached my best employees, and made it clear that Harper & Associates had no room for Harper anymore. When I'd finally confronted Daniel, begged him to explain what I'd done wrong, he'd said only, "Some things end, Vivian. You have to learn to let go." I'd lost the firm, lost the condo I'd been buying in Queen Anne, lost my savings fighting legal battles I couldn't win. And now I was moving out of this shitty studio apartment because I couldn't even afford the $800 rent anymore. My phone buzzed. Text from Isabella Chen, my former project manager and one of the few people who'd stayed loyal. "Isabella, you sure about this cruise ship thing? There are other options." Me. "Like what, bankrupting myself, further fighting Daniel? I'm done fighting Izzy." Isabella. "You're the most talented architect I know. This is temporary. You'll rebuild." Me. "Maybe. Right now I just need to survive." The cruise line job had been a last resort. Oceanic Serenity, one of those luxury ships that catered to wealthy retirees and honeymoon couples. They'd been desperate for staff high turnover, apparently because working at sea for 6 months straight wasn't everyone's idea of a dream job. But for me, it was perfect. Room and board included. No rent, no Daniel, no daily reminders of everything I'd lost. Just the ocean strangers and space to figure out who Vivian Harper was supposed to be now that she'd lost everything that defined her. I grabbed my 2 suitcases. Everything I owned fit in 2 suitcases now, and locked the apartment door for the last time. July 15th, Pier 91, Seattle. The Oceanic Serenity was massive. 16 decks space for 3,000 passengers, more staff than I could count. It looked like a floating city made of steel and glass gleaming in the gray Seattle morning. I'd arrived at the crew entrance at 6 a.m., shown my papers to security, and been directed to the staff quarters on Deck 2. The room I'd be sharing with 7 other women was smaller than my studio bathroom had been. 8 bunks, 8 lockers, 1 porthole window that looked directly at the ship's hull. My bunkmate was a woman named Lena from the Philippines, early 20s, who'd been working ships for 3 years. "First time?" she asked, watching me try to figure out how to fit my life into a locker the size of a milk crate. "That obvious, you still have hope in your eyes." She smiled, not unkindly. "Give it 2 weeks. You'll look like the rest of us, tired and counting days until port leave." "How bad is it really?" Lena shrugged. "Depends on your assignment. Kitchen is hell. Housekeeping is exhausting. But dining room?" She raised her eyebrows. "That's where you can make real money if you're good. Tips from rich passengers who barely see you as human can be generous." I'd been assigned to the Sapphire restaurant on Deck 9, one of the premium dining venues. White tablecloths, 7-course meals, passengers who'd paid extra for the elevated experience. "You got lucky," Lena said. "Sophia Martinez runs Sapphire. She's tough, but if she likes you, she protects you. And you'll need protection." "From what?" "From passengers who think they own you. From managers who think they own you. From the ocean when it decides to remind you that you're just a tiny speck on a giant metal box." Orientation was 4 hours of safety protocols, sexual harassment policies that seemed optimistic at best, and a tour of the area's staff were allowed to access. The ship had a whole world. Passengers never saw crew mess halls, laundry facilities, tiny gyms and bars where we could drink cheap beer after 18-hour shifts. By 2 p.m., I was in uniform, black pants, white shirt, black vest name tag that said Vivian, in letters so small you'd have to squint to read it. My hair was pulled back in a tight bun. I wore glasses I didn't usually need, but they helped me feel less visible, less like myself. At 3 p.m., I met Sophia Martinez. She was 50-something Puerto Rican with silver streaking through black hair, pulled into a severe bun. Her eyes were sharp, the kind of eyes that saw everything and forgot nothing. "Vivian Harper," she said, looking at the clipboard. "Says here you have a degree in architecture and 12 years of management experience." "Yes, ma'am?" "So what are you doing serving tables on a cruise ship?" I'd prepared for this question. "Career change. Wanted to travel." Sophia's eyes narrowed. She didn't believe me, but she also didn't push. "You'll start on the floor tonight. Trial by fire. Follow Maya's lead. She'll show you the ropes. Don't drop anything. Don't make eye contact longer than necessary. And for God's sake, don't get involved in passenger drama. We're invisible. We're efficient. We're ghosts who bring food and take plates." "Understood." "Yes, ma'am." "Good. Dinner service starts at 6 p.m. Don't be late." 6:15 p.m. Sapphire Restaurant. The Sapphire Restaurant was exactly what I expected from a luxury cruise. Crystal chandeliers, midnight blue carpet, floor-to-ceiling windows showing Puget Sound as we pulled away from Seattle. Soft jazz played from hidden speakers. The air smelled like expensive wine and old money. I followed Maya, a woman in her 30s from Ecuador who moved with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this job 1,000 times. "Table assignments are here," she said, pointing to a chart by the kitchen entrance. "You've got Section B. Tables 8 through 15, high rollers mostly, people who paid extra for window seats." I scanned the chart. Table 12 had a note anniversary couple. Champagne service. "What's the usual tip on a cruise?" I asked. Maya laughed. "Some people tip like they're grateful for oxygen. Others act like you should pay them for the privilege of serving. You'll learn to read them fast." The first hour was chaos. I was slow, clumsy, trying to remember which fork went where, how to open wine bottles without making a production of it, how to smile and nod when passengers complained about portions or temperature, or the fact that their water had ice when they'd specifically requested no ice even though they definitely hadn't. By 7 p.m. I'd found a rhythm. Muscle memory from years of client dinners kicked in. I could read body language, anticipate needs, disappear into the background until I was needed. And then I approached table 12. The couple had their backs to me initially. I could see champagne flutes already on the table menus unopened. The man was saying something that made the woman laugh, the kind of laugh that sounded practiced performative. I arranged my face into the pleasant neutral expression I'd perfected. Approached with the wine list. "Good evening," I said. "I'm Vivian. I'll be taking care of you tonight. May I start you with—" The man turned to look at me. Everything stopped. Daniel Kim, 42 years old, salt and pepper hair that he'd finally let go gray, wire-rimmed glasses, the same dimple in his left cheek when he smiled. My Daniel, except he wasn't mine, hadn't been for 6 months, and he was sitting across from a woman I recognized with the kind of sick dropping sensation you get in nightmares. Rachel Morgan, my best friend from college, the woman who'd held me when my sister died, the woman who'd disappeared from my life 5 years ago, with barely an explanation, just a text saying she'd needed space and a forwarding address in San Francisco I'd written to 3 times with no response. Rachel Morgan, who I'd loved like a sister. Rachel Morgan, who was now wearing a diamond ring on her left hand that caught the chandelier light like a small mocking star. Daniel didn't recognize me. His eyes passed over me with the vague politeness people reserve for service workers seeing the uniform, not the person. But Rachel's eyes locked on mine for exactly 3 seconds. I saw recognition flicker across her face, saw her mouth open slightly, saw her hand move unconsciously to cover the ring, and then her face went smooth, deliberately blank. She didn't know me. We were strangers. With wine, I finished, my voice steady despite the way my hands wanted to shake. "We have an excellent Veuve Clicquot to celebrate your anniversary." "That sounds perfect," Daniel said, smiling at Rachel. "We're celebrating more than an anniversary, actually. We just got married 3 weeks ago. This is our honeymoon." The words hit me like physical blows. Married, honeymoon. 3 weeks ago, while I'd been packing my life into 2 suitcases, Daniel had been marrying Rachel Morgan. "Congratulations," I heard myself say. "I'll bring that champagne right away." I turned and walked toward the kitchen with movements that felt mechanical, robotic, like my body was operating on autopilot while my brain tried to process what I'd just seen. In the kitchen, I leaned against the stainless steel counter, breathing carefully. Maya appeared beside me. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," I managed. "Just, it's warm in there." She gave me a skeptical look, but didn't push. "Table 12's champagne is chilling in the ice bucket by Station 3. You want me to take it?" "No!" My voice came out harder than I intended. "No, I've got it." I needed to go back out there. Needed to confirm what I'd seen wasn't some stress-induced hallucination. Daniel Kim had married Rachel Morgan. The 2 people who'd once been the most important people in my life, besides my sister Claire, had somehow found each other, gotten married, and were now celebrating their honeymoon on the ship, where I was serving them champagne. The universe had a sick sense of humor. I grabbed the champagne, arranged my face back into professional neutrality, and returned to table 12. This time I studied them while I opened the bottle. Tried to see them as they saw each other instead of as I remembered them. Daniel looked happy, relaxed in a way I'd never seen him. His hand rested on Rachel's thumb, rubbing small circles on her skin. Rachel was beautiful. She'd always been beautiful, but now there was something polished about her. Expensive highlights in her blonde hair. Diamond studs that probably cost more than my entire year's salary would be. A dress that whispered designer in every elegant line. She'd done well for herself in the 5 years since she'd vanished from my life. "How long have you 2 known each other?" I asked as I poured, keeping my voice light, making conversation the way good servers did. Daniel smiled. "We actually dated in grad school 20 years ago. Lost touch for a long time. Then fate brought us back together about a year ago." A year ago. 7 months before Daniel had left me. "That's lovely," I said, the words tasting like ash. "A second chance at first love." "Exactly," Rachel said, speaking for the first time. Her voice was the same, slightly husky, the kind of voice that made people lean in to listen. "Sometimes people come back into your life when you're finally ready for them." She was looking at me now, really looking, trying to decide if I knew who she was or if the universe had just played an incredibly cruel coincidence. I met her eyes. Let recognition show for just a fraction of a second. Her face went pale. "Will there be anything else?" I asked. "No," Rachel said quickly. That's perfect. Thank you. I walked away, feeling her eyes on my back. 11:45 p.m. Crew bar deck 2. I couldn't go back to the cramped bunk room yet. Couldn't lie there in the dark with 7 other women and pretend I was fine. The crew bar was small, smelled like stale beer and desperation, but it was open 24/7 for staff who worked all hours. At midnight, it was mostly empty, a few housekeepers finishing their shifts, a couple of engineers still in oil-stained coveralls. I ordered a vodka tonic and sat in a corner booth pulling out my phone. Signal was weak, but functional. I opened Google and typed, Daniel Kim Rachel Morgan wedding. The results came up immediately. Portland Monthly had covered it, local architect marries angel investor in intimate ceremony. There were photos, Daniel in a charcoal gray suit, Rachel in white lace looking like something from a magazine. The caption identified her as Rachel Morgan, founder of Stellar Ventures Capital, known for investing in sustainable architecture and green building initiatives. I scrolled down, found another article from 6 months ago. Stellar Ventures invests in Kim & Associates architecture. Kim & Associates, not Harper & Associates, just Kim. My hands started shaking. I clicked on the Kim & Associates website. Modern design, beautiful portfolio. All the projects I'd started rebranded under Daniel's name alone. And there on the About page was the truth I should have seen 6 months ago. Founded by Daniel Kim with seed funding from Stellar Ventures Capital. Kim & Associates specializes in sustainable urban design building on the legacy of... I stopped reading. Veronica Castellanos had never existed. The investor who'd systematically destroyed my half of the business while buying out Daniel's had been Rachel all along. Rachel using a fake name. Rachel who'd apparently made enough money in San Francisco to come back and buy my life out from under me. Rachel who'd disappeared exactly 5 years ago, right after my sister Claire died in a car accident that I'd always blamed myself for. The vodka tonic was gone. I didn't remember drinking it. I ordered another. Rough first day, I looked up. A man in his 40s had slid into the booth across from me. Dark hair going silver at the temples lines around his eyes that suggested he smiled often but wasn't smiling now. He wore the uniform of the ship's bar staff black shirt name tag that said Marcus. Something like that, I said. I'm Marcus Chen. I run the cocktail bars on decks 8 through 10. He gestured at my vodka. That's your second double in 10 minutes. Usually means someone's trying to forget something specific. And you care because I've been working ships for 5 years and I can spot trouble before it starts. Woman with your education and experience doesn't end up serving tables on a cruise ship unless something went very wrong in her life. And whatever you saw tonight in Sapphire made it worse. I studied him. His eyes were intelligent, kind, the kind of eyes that had seen things. You're very observant for a bartender. Former detective, Seattle PD, took early retirement after... He paused. After I missed something important. Someone died because I wasn't paying attention. Figured I'd be better at serving drinks than serving justice. There was a weight to those words. A guilt I recognized. So now you observe people on cruise ships. Now I try to catch the things I'm trained to see, like the fact that you didn't just see difficult passengers tonight. You saw someone who meant something to you. Someone you thought you'd never see again. I took a drink. What if I did? Then I'd say you have 3 options. 1, ask Sophia to transfer you to a different section so you don't have to serve them again. 2, pretend they're strangers and do your job until we dock in 2 weeks. 3, figure out why seeing them upset you so much and decide what you're going to do about it. What would you do? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Depends on what they took from you. Some things you let go, some things you fight for, and some things... He stood up, leaving his card on the table. Some things need truth before they can rest. If you need help figuring out which category your situation falls into, you know where to find me. He walked away, leaving me alone with my vodka and my questions. I pulled out my phone again. This time I searched for something I hadn't let myself look at in months. Claire Harper death, Seattle 2020. The articles came up. Small pieces mostly. Local architect's sister dies in tragic accident. Police rule brake failure caused crash on I-5. No foul play suspected. But I remembered the garage report. The one the mechanic had mentioned to me after Claire's funeral quietly, like he wasn't sure he should say anything. Psst, Harper, I hate to bring this up now, but the brake line damage on your sister's car, it looked deliberate, like someone had loosened the bolts. I mentioned it to the police, but they said without proof of who did it, it was still just an accident. I'd been so deep in guilt, then guilt for refusing to drive Claire to the airport that morning, guilt for being too busy with work, guilt for not being a better sister that I hadn't pushed, hadn't investigated, had just assumed Claire's death was one more thing I'd failed to prevent. But what if it wasn't an accident? What if someone had deliberately sabotaged Claire's car? And what if that someone had disappeared from Seattle exactly one day after Claire died? Rachel Morgan had left town 5 years ago without explanation, and now she was here married to my ex, celebrating a honeymoon funded by money she'd made destroying my business. I picked up Marcus's card, turned it over in my fingers. On the back, handwritten in neat print, "The truth doesn't care about your timeline, but justice does. Don't wait too long." Day 2, 7:00 a.m. I didn't sleep. Lay in my bunk listening to 7 other women breathe snore shift in their sleep. Lena had been right. I still had hope in my eyes yesterday morning. By tonight, I'd look like everyone else. Tired, counting days. But now I had a different purpose for those days. At 6 a.m., I dressed in my uniform and went to find Sophia Martinez. She was in her office on Deck 3, a closet-sized space with a desk, a computer, and stacks of paperwork that suggested cruise ships ran on bureaucracy and caffeine. "Vivian?" She looked up surprised. "You're not scheduled until lunch service. I need to ask a favor." Her eyebrows rose. 24 hours in and you're already asking favors bold. "I need to keep serving table 12 for the rest of the cruise." Sophia set down her pen, studied me with those sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Table 12, the newlyweds. Anniversary couples usually only eat in Sapphire a couple times per cruise. They'll be at buffets and casual restaurants most days. Then I need access to their schedule. I need to know where they'll be eating when they have reservations, what activities they're signed up for. That's confidential passenger information." "I know." Sophia leaned back in her chair. Why? I could lie. Should lie. But something about Sophia's eyes made me think she'd see through anything but the truth. Because the man at table 12 is my ex-business partner. He destroyed my company 6 months ago, took everything I built, and married the woman he used to do it. A woman who was my best friend in college and who disappeared from my life 5 years ago, right after my sister died in a suspicious car accident. Sophia didn't blink. "And you want revenge?" "I want answers." Same thing usually. "Maybe, but I can't get answers if I can't observe them. I need to understand what happened, why it happened, and if..." I stopped. If my sister's death really was an accident? Sophia was quiet for a long moment. Then she opened a drawer and pulled out a tablet, pulled up a file. "Daniel Kim and Rachel Kim, Suite 1847, Deck 12. Paid $28,000 for the 2-week Alaska cruise all-inclusive premium package." She scrolled. "They have dinner reservations at Sapphire tonight at 8 p.m. Tomorrow they're booked for the Italian restaurant. Day after they're doing a shore excursion in Ketchikan." She turned the tablet toward me. "I shouldn't be showing you this. If anyone finds out I gave you access to passenger information, I'll be fired." "Why are you doing it?" Sophia's expression hardened. "Because 10 years ago I left my husband, took my daughter, and ran in the middle of the night. Came to work on these ships because it was the only place he couldn't follow me." She paused. "He'd been beating me for 5 years. I'd been making excuses for 5 years. And then one night my daughter asked me why I let Daddy hurt me. She was 7 years old and she thought it was normal." She closed the tablet. "I got out, started over. Built a new life where I had power, even if it was just power over dining room assignments and wine lists. So when I see someone who's been destroyed by someone they trusted, I help. But Vivian..." "Yes, don't do anything stupid. Don't confront them publicly. Don't cause a scene. And for God's sake, don't do anything that'll make me regret helping you." "I won't." "Good, because if you do, I'll throw you overboard myself." She pulled up a secondary screen. "This is the passenger activity log, updated in real time by our recreation staff. I'm giving you view-only access on your employee portal. You can see where Daniel and Rachel check in for activities, which restaurants they eat at, even which deck they're on at any given time based on their room keycard swipes. This seems like a privacy violation. It's a security feature. We need to know where passengers are in case of emergencies. Sophia smiled thinly. You're just using it for personal research. 8:00 p.m. Sapphire Restaurant. Daniel and Rachel were already seated when I arrived for my shift. Table 12, same window seat, same champagne flutes. This time I was prepared. I'd pulled my hair back even tighter, put on the glasses even though they made everything slightly blurry, kept my head down as I approached. Good evening, I said. May I start you with drinks? Daniel barely glanced up. Gin martini very dry, and she'll have a glass of the Chardonnay, the cake bread, if you have it. We do. Excellent choice. I turned to go, but Rachel spoke. Wait. I stopped, turned back. Rachel was staring at me now, really staring. Her eyes moved over my face, my hair, my hands, looking for confirmation of what she suspected. Have we met before? She asked. I don't think so, ma'am. You look familiar. I have one of those faces. I smiled blandly. I'll get those drinks for you. I walked away, feeling her eyes on my back again. In the kitchen, Maya grabbed my arm. What did you do? Nothing. Why? Because that woman at table 12 is watching you like you're about to poison her food. Did you do something to piss her off? Not yet, I muttered. 10:30 p.m. Observation deck. I couldn't go back to the crew quarters. Couldn't face Lena's questions about why I looked like I'd been punched. The observation deck was supposed to be passenger only, but security was lax at night. I found a corner behind the lifeboats where crew sometimes came to smoke or make phone calls without being overheard. The ocean stretched out in every direction. Black water, black sky, stars that looked close enough to touch. I pulled out my phone and opened the employee portal Sophia had given me access to. Checked the passenger activity log. Daniel and Rachel had left Sapphire at 9:45 p.m. Swiped their keycard at the elevator on deck 9 at 9:47 p.m. Swiped into their suite on deck 12 at 9:52 p.m. They were in their room now, probably having champagne on their private balcony, probably laughing about their day, probably planning tomorrow's shore excursion in Juneau. Probably not thinking at all about Vivian Harper, who was serving them drinks while her life crumbled around her for the second time. I opened my photos, found the one picture I'd kept from the old days, me, Rachel, and Claire at Pike Place Market. We were 25, laughing, eating ice cream in the rain. The three of us against the world. Claire had died 4 years after that photo was taken. Rachel had disappeared the day after Claire's funeral. And I'd spent 5 years blaming myself for Claire's death, never once questioning if someone else might be responsible. I heard footsteps, turned to see Marcus approaching with 2 beers. Thought I'd find you here, he said, offering me one. Sophia told me about your situation, said I should keep an eye on you. She talks a lot for someone who's supposed to keep secrets. She trusts me, and she thinks you might need an ally. He leaned against the railing beside me. So, you think your friend Rachel killed your sister? I don't know. Maybe. The timing is suspicious. What happened to your sister, I mean? I took a drink. Claire died 5 years ago. Car accident on I-5. Police said her brakes failed, catastrophic failure, both main and emergency systems. The mechanic said it looked like someone had loosened the bolts deliberately, but without proof of who did it, the police ruled it an accident. And Rachel left town when, the day after the funeral, just vanished. Sent me one text saying she needed space to process her grief, then blocked my number. I wrote to her address in San Francisco 3 times. Never got a response. Marcus was quiet, thinking. Why would Rachel want to hurt your sister? That was the question I'd been avoiding. I don't know, I admitted. Claire and Rachel were friends. Not as close as Rachel and I were, but they got along. I can't think of any reason Rachel would want Claire dead. Unless Claire knew something. Something Rachel needed to keep quiet. The words hung in the air between us. Like what? Like the fact that Rachel was already involved with Daniel 5 years ago. Maybe Claire found out. Maybe she threatened to tell you. Maybe Rachel decided to eliminate the problem. My stomach churned. That's insane. Is it? Marcus turned to face me. Think about it. Rachel leaves town the day after Claire dies. 5 years later, she comes back with enough money to destroy your business and marry your ex-partner. That's not coincidence, Vivian. That's a plan. But why? If Rachel wanted Daniel, why not just tell me why destroy my entire life? Because she's not just taking Daniel, she's taking everything. Your business, your reputation, your future. She's erasing you. Marcus paused. In my experience, people only do that when they're covering up something big, something they can't risk you discovering. I thought about Rachel's face tonight when she'd recognized me. The flash of fear, the way she'd gone pale. She wasn't just surprised to see me. She was scared. I need to get into their suite, I said suddenly. Absolutely not. I need to see if Rachel kept anything, any evidence of what happened 5 years ago. Vivian, breaking into a passenger's room is a felony. You'll be arrested when we dock. Only if I get caught. I met his eyes. You said you missed something important once. Someone died because you weren't paying attention. Well, my sister died, and I spent 5 years not asking the right questions. I'm not making that mistake again. Marcus stared at me for a long moment. Then he sighed. And this is a massive, if I were to help you hypothetically, what would you be looking for? Anything that connects Rachel to Claire's death. Emails, messages, a diary. I don't know. But Rachel's the type who keeps records, who documents things. If she was involved in Claire's accident, she'd have kept something, as insurance or guilt or something. That's a lot of assumptions. I know, but I have to try. Marcus finished his beer. Tomorrow is the Juneau excursion. Most passengers book the full-day tours 8 hours off ship. If Daniel and Rachel are on one of those tours, we'd have access to their suite while it's empty. I'd have access. I know the housekeeping supervisor. She owes me a favor. You would wait in the crew corridor and I would go in alone to look for anything obviously suspicious. 5 minutes max. If I find something, great. If not, we walk away and never try this again. Why would you do this for me? Marcus looked out at the ocean. Because the woman who died when I wasn't paying attention was my wife. Someone was stalking her. She told me. She filed reports. And I was too busy with other cases to take it seriously. Thought she was being paranoid. His voice went flat. She was killed in a parking garage 3 months later. The stalker made it look like a mugging gone wrong. By the time I connected the dots, he'd left the state. I'm sorry. Don't be. Just don't make my mistake. If you think someone hurt your sister, don't let them get away with it just because investigating is hard or scary or risky. He turned to me. But we do this smart. Careful. And if we don't find anything tomorrow, you let it go. Agreed? I nodded, even though I knew I was lying. I would never let this go. Day 3, 6:45 a.m. I woke up to Lena shaking my shoulder. You talk in your sleep, she said. Kept saying Claire and check the brakes. Nightmare. Something like that. I dressed quickly, checked the passenger activity log. Daniel and Rachel had booked the Mendenhall Glacier tour 8 hours departing at 8 a.m. Perfect. At 7:30 a.m., I watched from the crew corridor on deck 12 as passengers lined up for excursions. Daniel and Rachel were there dressed in hiking gear, looking excited and carefree. They boarded the tender boat at 7:55 a.m. At 8:15 a.m., Marcus appeared beside me with a key card. Housekeeping master key. We have until 9 a.m. before the cleaning crew reaches this section. That gives us 30 minutes. Let's do it. Suite 1847 was on the starboard side with a balcony overlooking the ocean. Marcus swiped the key card and the door clicked open. Inside was exactly what you'd expect from a $28,000 cruise package. King bed with ocean views. Separate sitting area. Marble bathroom. Champagne chilling in an ice bucket. And everywhere were signs of Daniel and Rachel's new life together. Photos in silver frames on the dresser. Daniel and Rachel at their wedding. Daniel and Rachel hiking somewhere mountainous. Daniel and Rachel at a restaurant I recognized, the one in Pioneer Square where he and I used to celebrate closed deals. They'd already made memories in all the places that used to be ours. What are we looking for? Marcus asked, already moving toward the desk where a laptop sat closed. Anything that mentions Claire Harper, or Seattle 5 years ago, or car accidents. I opened the closet, started checking jacket pockets. Rachel's the organized type. If she kept evidence, it'll be labeled filed, stored properly. That's a weird trait for a killer. She's not a killer. I paused. At least I don't think she meant to kill anyone. But if she did something to Claire's car, she'd document it. She'd need to remember exactly what she did in case anyone ever asked questions. Marcus had opened the laptop. Password protected. I'm not a hacker. Try her birthday, April 15th, 1987. He typed, shook his head. No. Try Daniel's, November 3rd, 1983. Nothing. I moved to the nightstand, opened the drawers. Found a book, The Architecture of Happiness by Alain de Botton. Inside the cover, an inscription in Daniel's handwriting, for Rachel, to second chances and new beginnings. Always D. My hands shook. I put the book back. Behind me, Marcus said, Vivian, come here. He was crouched by the bed, pulling something from underneath. A wooden box about the size of a shoebox with a small brass clasp. Found it shoved against the wall. Almost missed it. I took the box. It wasn't locked. I opened it. Inside photographs. Old ones printed on actual photo paper. Daniel and Rachel in college looking impossibly young. Rachel pregnant Daniel's hand on her swollen belly. An ultrasound image with baby Kim, 18 weeks, written in marker. Beneath the photos, a small USB drive on a keychain that said backup, do not lose. Take it, Marcus said. We don't have time to look at it here. I grabbed the USB, started to close the box, and then I saw the edge of a notebook underneath the photos. I pulled it out. A journal. Small leather bound filled with Rachel's distinctive handwriting. I opened to a random page. Read June 2020. It's been 3 weeks since Claire died. Daniel still doesn't know what I did. He thinks it was an accident. He thinks I'm grieving with him for him beside him. But I'm not grieving for Claire. I'm grieving for myself, for the person I was before I became a killer. The words punched the air from my lungs. Marcus, take it. Take everything. We need to leave. I shoved the journal and USB into the pockets of my uniform. Put the box back under the bed exactly as we'd found it. We were at the door when we heard voices in the hallway. Rachel's voice. I forgot my motion sickness pills. I'll be right back down. Daniel's voice fainter. Want me to come with you? No, stay with the group. I'll only be a minute. Marcus grabbed my arm, pulled me toward the bathroom. We barely made it inside before the suite door opened. Through the crack in the bathroom door, I could see Rachel enter. She went straight to the nightstand, grabbed a pill bottle, and was turning to leave when she stopped, looked at the bed, looked underneath it. Her face went pale. She dropped to her knees, pulled out the wooden box, opened it, saw the journal was gone. No, she whispered. No, no, no. She grabbed her phone, dialed with shaking hands. Daniel, don't get on the boat. Someone's been in our room. Someone took... She paused, listening. No, I'm serious. The journal. The one I told you I'd destroyed. It's gone. Another pause. I don't know who, but Daniel, if someone reads it, they'll know what I did. They'll know about Claire. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure she could hear it. I'm coming down, Rachel said. We need to search the ship. We need to find it before... She stopped mid-sentence, turned slowly to look at the bathroom door, at the crack where I was watching her. Our eyes met. For one frozen second, we both understood everything. Rachel knew I'd taken the journal, and I knew she was guilty. She lunged toward the bathroom door. Marcus shoved it open first, pushing her backward. She stumbled, caught herself on the bed. Stop! She screamed. Security, someone help! I ran. Out of the suite into the hallway, Marcus right behind me. We hit the stairwell, taking steps 2 at a time, heading down toward the crew corridors where we could disappear into the maze of passages passengers never saw. Behind us, I could hear Rachel's voice echoing in the stairwell. Vivian, I know it's you. We need to talk. We burst through the crew entrance on deck 3. The hallway was full of housekeepers, maintenance workers, people who didn't even glance at 2 more crew members running like their lives depended on it. Marcus pulled me into a storage closet. We pressed against shelving units filled with linens, breathing hard, listening. Footsteps in the hallway, running, slowing, Rachel's voice. Did 2 crew members just come through here? A man and a woman. A housekeeper's voice, bored. Crew members are always running through here, ma'am. You need to return to the passenger decks. This area is staff only. But I need to, ma'am, passenger decks, now. Footsteps retreating. Reluctantly. Marcus and I stayed frozen for another 5 minutes. Then he pulled out his phone, typed something, showed me the screen. Don't go back to your quarters. She knows where you sleep. Stay in public areas until I can figure out a plan." I nodded. He opened the closet door carefully. The hallway was empty except for the normal bustle of crew preparing for the day. "Meet me at the crew bar tonight," he whispered. "Midnight. Don't talk to anyone until then. And Vivian, yeah, read that journal, fast, because whatever's in it is worth killing for." 12:00 p.m. Crew mess hall. I couldn't eat. Sat in a corner of the mess hall with a tray of food. I wasn't touching the journal and USB burning like hot coals in my pockets. Around me, crew members ate and complained and laughed. Normal people living normal lives. I pulled out the journal carefully, opened it under the table, reading while pretending to eat. March 2020, I saw Daniel today at the Sustainable Architecture Conference in Portland. It's been 15 years since we were together. 15 years since I lost the baby and ran away because I couldn't handle his grief on top of mine. He looks good, older, successful. He was there with his business partner, Vivian Harper. I remember Vivian from college, Claire Harper's older sister. We were friends once before I disappeared, before everything fell apart. Daniel introduced us like we'd never met. Maybe he doesn't remember. Maybe he's trying to forget. But I remember everything. And seeing him again, all those old feelings came back. The ones I thought I'd buried. April 2020, Daniel and I have been emailing. Just professional at first, talking about potential investments in sustainable design. But it's become more. He told me he and Vivian are together, have been for years, that they built Harper & Associates from nothing. He also told me he's not happy, that Vivian is distant, that she's been obsessed with some guilt over her sister Claire and won't talk about it. I didn't know Claire and Vivian were that close. In college, Vivian always seemed too busy with school to pay attention to her younger sister. Maybe that's why she feels guilty now. Daniel says he feels like he's living with a ghost, that Vivian is physically present but emotionally gone. I told him I understood. I told him I'd felt that way too after the miscarriage, that sometimes grief makes us disappear into ourselves. I should have stopped there, should have stayed professional. But I didn't. I told him I still thought about us sometimes, about what we could have been. He said he thought about it too. April 19th, 2020, Daniel and I slept together in a hotel in Seattle, while Vivian was in Portland working on a project. It was a mistake. We both knew it was a mistake, but it also felt right, like finishing something we'd started 20 years ago. He said he was going to tell Vivian, that he couldn't keep lying to her. I panicked, told him to wait, to give me time to figure things out, because if Vivian found out, she'd hate me, and I couldn't lose her friendship again. Not after I'd just found my way back to Daniel. Daniel agreed to wait a week, just 1 week, but then Claire found out. I stopped reading, turned the page with hands that shook. April 25th, 2020, Claire Harper called me today, said she needed to talk. We met at a coffee shop on Hawthorne. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. "I know about you and Daniel," she said. "He told Vivian he had a client meeting yesterday, but I saw his car at the Hotel Monaco downtown, and I saw you leave the same hotel 2 hours later. I tried to deny it, but Claire was smart. She'd already put the pieces together. Vivian is my sister," Claire said. "She's been through hell since our mom got sick. She's been holding everything together, the business, the family, her own grief. And now you're sleeping with her boyfriend." I told her it was complicated, that Daniel and I had history, that Vivian and Daniel were already falling apart. Claire didn't care. She said if I didn't end things with Daniel immediately, she'd tell Vivian everything. I begged her for time, just a few days, to figure out how to tell Vivian myself. Claire said no. She said Vivian deserved the truth now, not later, not when I felt ready, now. She gave me until Monday, said if I hadn't told Vivian by then, she would. Monday was April 27th, 3 days away. The next entry made my blood run cold. April 26, 2020. I did something terrible. I knew Claire was driving to Seattle this morning for a conference. She'd mentioned it at the coffee shop, said she needed to leave early because her car was making a weird noise, and she wanted to get it checked before the drive. I knew where she parked. Same garage near the apartment she shared with roommates in North Portland. I brought tools, a wrench, told myself I was just going to look. just going to see if there was really something wrong with the car. But when I got there, when I saw her car sitting in that empty garage at 6 a.m., I started thinking, if Claire's car broke down on the way to Seattle, she'd miss her conference. She'd have to stay home. She'd have to postpone telling Vivian. That would give me more time. Time to figure out how to end things with Daniel without losing everything. I didn't mean to do real damage. I just loosened a few bolts on the brake line. Not enough to make the brakes fail completely, just enough to make them less responsive. Enough that she'd notice something was wrong and take the car to a mechanic instead of driving to Seattle. I thought it was a small thing, a minor inconvenience that would buy me a few days. I didn't know she'd keep driving anyway. I didn't know she'd get on the highway with failing brakes. I didn't know I couldn't read anymore, couldn't breathe. The mess hall around me continued its normal chaos. People eating, laughing, living. And I was holding proof that my best friend had murdered my sister. Not intentionally, but murdered her nonetheless. I flipped to the end of the journal. One final entry, June 2020. I left Seattle. Couldn't stay. Couldn't look at Vivian's face, knowing what I'd done. Daniel doesn't know. He thinks Claire's death was a tragic accident. He thinks I'm grieving along with Vivian. But I'm not grieving for Claire. I'm grieving for myself, for the person I was before I became a killer. I thought about turning myself in, telling the police what I did. But I'm a coward. So instead, I ran. I went to San Francisco, made money, built a life, tried to forget, but I never forgot. And now I'm coming back, because I owe Daniel a second chance. I owe us a second chance. And if that means destroying Vivian's life to get it, maybe that's the price I pay for Claire's death. Maybe that's my penance. The journal ended there. I sat in the crew mess hall holding proof of Rachel Morgan's guilt and understood finally why she'd come back. Not for love, for absolution. She'd convinced herself that if she and Daniel could be together, if they could build the life they'd lost 20 years ago, then Claire's death would have meant something, would have served a purpose. Rachel had bought my company, destroyed my career, and married my ex-boyfriend, not because she hated me, but because erasing me was the only way she could live with what she'd done. If Vivian Harper didn't exist anymore, then Claire Harper's death would just be unfortunate collateral damage in a love story. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands, opened the employee portal, checked the passenger activity log. Daniel and Rachel had returned from the glacier tour at 2:47 p.m. They'd swiped into their suite at 3:03 p.m. They'd been there for 10 minutes. Then Daniel had swiped out alone at 3:13 p.m. Headed to Deck 9, to the security office. Rachel was in their suite, alone, looking for me. My phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. Rachel filed a theft report with ship security. Claimed someone stole a family heirloom from her suite. They're reviewing camera footage now. You need to disappear until we figure this out. But I didn't want to disappear. I wanted Rachel to know I had the journal. I wanted her to know that I knew the truth. I wanted to watch her face when she realized that everything she'd built on my sister's grave was about to collapse. I typed a response to Marcus. Tell security I'll turn myself in. But I need one thing first. I need to talk to Rachel, alone, tonight. Tell her to meet me on the observation deck at 2 a.m. if she wants the journal back. Marcus responded immediately. That's insane. Don't do this. She killed my sister, Marcus. I need to look her in the eye and make her say it out loud. Then do it with security present, with witnesses. Don't meet a murderer alone in the middle of the night. I stared at his message. He was right. Of course he was right. But I didn't want right. I wanted closure. I wanted Rachel to feel one fraction of the pain I'd felt for 5 years. I'll be careful, I typed. Just set up the meeting. I stood up, threw away my untouched food, and walked out of the mess hall. I had 8 hours until 2 a.m. 8 hours to decide what I was going to do with the truth I'd found. 8 hours to decide if I wanted justice or revenge. The USB drive felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket. I'd spent the afternoon hiding in places passengers never went, the industrial laundry rooms on Deck 1, the crew library that was really just a closet with moldy paperbacks, the engine room observation platform, where the noise was so loud you couldn't think. Couldn't think was good, because when I thought all I saw was Claire's face the last time I'd seen her alive. She'd called me that morning. April 27th, 2020. Asked if I could drive her to Seattle for her conference because her car was making a weird grinding noise. I'd said no. I had a client meeting. An important pitch for a museum renovation that could make Harper & Associates a household name in Seattle architecture. Just take your car, I'd told her. It's probably nothing. Maybe some rust on the brake pads. You sure it sounds pretty bad? Claire, I can't cancel this meeting. I've been preparing for 3 months. Take your car. If you're really worried, stop at a mechanic on the way. She'd paused. Then okay, I understand. Good luck with the pitch, Viv. I love you. Love you too. Those were the last words I'd said to my sister. 3 hours later, she was dead. Brake failure on I-5 southbound just past the King County line. She'd hit the center divider going 70 miles an hour. The impact killed her instantly. And I'd spent 5 years believing it was my fault for not driving her, when the real killer had been the woman I'd trusted most in the world. Tell, 6:00 p.m., crew quarters. I finally went back to my bunk. Lena was there getting ready for her evening shift in the buffet restaurant. You look like hell, she said not unkindly. You sick, something like that. Sophia was looking for you, said you missed your lunch shift. She's pissed. I'll deal with it. Lena studied me. You know, when I first started working ships, I thought I could hide from my problems. Figured if I was in the middle of the ocean, my ex-boyfriend couldn't find me. My family couldn't pressure me to come home. I could just disappear. Did it work? For about a week, she smiled sadly. Then I realized you can't hide from yourself. The ocean's big, but your problems are on the ship with you. In your head, in your heart. You can sail to the ends of the earth and they'll still be there when you wake up. What did you do? Stopped hiding, faced my shit, made choices. She grabbed her uniform vest. Whatever you're running from, Vivian, it's on this ship with you, and it's not going away until you deal with it. After she left, I pulled out the USB drive, stared at it. What else had Rachel kept on here? I grabbed my laptop, the one luxury I'd allowed myself to keep when I'd sold everything else, and plugged in the drive. 7 video files, all dated from April 2020. I clicked on the first one. Video Files 01, April 20th, 2020. The footage was grainy shot from inside a car. Dashboard camera, I realized. Rachel's car. The timestamp said 6:47 a.m. The location showed a parking garage in North Portland, the one near Claire's apartment. I watched Rachel's hands enter the frame, watched her check her mirrors, watched her grab a small toolkit from the passenger seat. Then she got out of the car. The camera kept recording. I could see her walk toward another car, Claire's blue Honda Civic. She looked around once, twice. The garage was empty. She knelt by the front wheel. The angle wasn't perfect, but I could see enough. See her open the toolkit. See her select a wrench. See her reach under the car toward the brake line. The video had no sound, but I didn't need it. I could see everything. Rachel worked for maybe 3 minutes. Then she stood up, brushed off her hands, looked around again, walked back to her car. The video ended. Video File 02, April 20th, 2020. Same parking garage. 20 minutes later. This time Rachel had moved her car, parked it farther away with a better angle on Claire's Honda. I watched my sister emerge from her apartment building at 7:35 a.m. She was carrying a coffee in her laptop bag, wearing jeans and that vintage band t-shirt she loved. She looked so alive. Claire walked to her car, got in, started the engine. I saw her frown, probably noticing the grinding noise was worse. She sat there for a moment. I could see her on her phone, probably calling me, probably hearing me say, "Just take your car. It's probably nothing." Claire put her phone down, made a decision. She backed out of the parking spot and drove away. The video ended. Video File 03, April 27, 2020. This one was different. Shot from Rachel's car again, but this time on the highway. I-5 southbound. Rachel was following Claire, staying back far enough that Claire wouldn't notice, but close enough that the camera could capture everything. The timestamp said 9:23 a.m. I watched Claire's Honda in the distance. Normal driving. Nothing unusual. Then, around mile marker 167, Claire's brake lights came on. Came on, stayed on. The car started weaving, just slightly at first, then more dramatically as Claire realized she couldn't slow down. I could see her brake lights flashing frantically. On, off, on, off. She was pumping the brakes, trying to engage the emergency brake. Nothing was working. The car swerved into the right lane, then the left. Claire was trying to use the other lanes to slow down, but traffic was too heavy. Cars honked, swerved away. Rachel's car slowed, pulled to the shoulder. The video captured everything. Claire's Honda veered toward the center divider, hit it at an angle. The car spun once, twice, then flipped. The sound was on in this video. I heard the crash, heard the screaming of metal and glass, heard Rachel's voice from inside her car. Oh God, Claire, I'm sorry. I didn't think you'd... The video ended. I sat on my bunk staring at the laptop screen, my whole body shaking. Rachel had recorded everything, had kept it all these years. Why? Why would someone film their own crime? Why would they keep the evidence? Video file 04, June 2020. This video was shorter, shot on a phone, not a dash cam. Rachel's face filled the screen. She looked awful, red-rimmed eyes, unwashed hair sitting in what looked like a hotel room. My name is Rachel Morgan, she said to the camera. It's June 15th, 2020. I'm recording this because I need someone to know the truth, even if that someone is just future me. She took a shaky breath. I killed Claire Harper. Not on purpose. I didn't mean for her to die. But I sabotaged her car and she died because of it. That makes me a killer. Tears were streaming down her face now. I've thought about turning myself in. Every day I think about it. But I'm too much of a coward, so instead I'm leaving Seattle, leaving Daniel, leaving Vivian, leaving everything. She wiped her eyes. I'm keeping these videos as, punishment proof, so I never forget what I did. If I ever start to feel happy again, if I ever think I deserve a second chance, I can watch these and remember that I'm a killer, that I took someone's sister, someone's daughter, someone's friend. She leaned closer to the camera. If you're watching this future, Rachel, remember, you don't get to be happy. You don't get to forget. This is your penance. Live with it or end it, but don't you dare pretend it didn't happen. The video ended. I closed the laptop, sat in the silence of the empty bunk room. Rachel had kept the videos as punishment, as a reminder, as insurance against her own capacity for self-forgiveness. She'd known she was a coward, known she'd run away instead of facing consequences, so she'd created her own private prison, a USB drive full of evidence she could never delete, never escape. But then something had changed. Somewhere between June 2020 and now, Rachel had decided she did deserve a second chance after all. Had decided that destroying my life was worth it if it meant she and Daniel could be together. Had decided that her happiness was more important than my sister's life. My phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. Rachel agreed to meet you. 2 a.m. observation deck. But Vivian, she also told Daniel everything. He knows about the journal. He knows you have it. He's looking for you too. What did she tell him? I don't know, but he went to security an hour ago. Asked them to detain you if they find you. Said you stole valuable personal property and might be dangerous. Dangerous? She's the one who killed someone. They don't know that. All they know is that you broke into a passenger suite and stole something. You're the criminal here officially. He was right. From security's perspective, I was a thief. Rachel was a victim. Just like 5 years ago when Claire died and everyone assumed it was an accident. Rachel had gotten away with murder because nobody asked the right questions. I couldn't let her get away with it again. I'm going to the meeting, I texted back. If I don't come back, make sure the videos get to the Seattle PD. Vivian. Promise me, Marcus. A long pause. Then, I promise. But I'm coming with you. You're not doing this alone. 10:00 p.m., Sapphire Restaurant. I had one more shift to work. Sophia had made that very clear when I'd finally shown up at her office to apologize for missing lunch service. I don't care what's happening in your personal life, she'd said, her voice cold. You miss another shift, you're fired. And fired means you get off this ship at the next port and find your own way home. Understood. Yes, ma'am? Good. You're working dinner tonight, and Vivian Table 12 requested you specifically. My blood went cold. What ye? The newlyweds. Rachel Kim. She asked if you could serve them tonight. Said you'd provided such excellent service last night that she wanted to make sure she got the same server. Rachel wanted me at her table, wanted to talk to me where I couldn't run, where I'd have to maintain my professional mask and pretend everything was normal. What did you tell her? I asked. I said yes, because that's what we do in hospitality. We give guests what they want. Sophia's eyes narrowed. Unless you want to tell me why that's a problem. I couldn't, not without admitting I'd broken into a passenger's suite and stolen their property. It's not a problem, I lied. Dinner said. At 15 p.m., Table 12, Daniel and Rachel were already seated when I arrived. Daniel looked tense. Rachel looked calm, too calm. Good evening, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. What can I get you to drink? Actually, Rachel said, we'd like to talk to you for a moment. Sit down. I'm working. Sit. Her voice was quiet but firm. We know who you are, Vivian. We know you've been watching us. We know you broke into our suite today. So let's stop pretending you're just a server. I glanced around. The restaurant was full. Other servers were bustling past. Nobody was paying attention to Table 12. I pulled out a chair, sat. Daniel was staring at me like I was a ghost. Vivian, Jesus Christ, what are you doing here? I work here. You work? He stopped. After the firm collapsed, you ended up working on a cruise ship. After you and your wife destroyed my firm, you mean? Yes. Rachel flinched. We didn't destroy anything. You chose to fight the restructuring instead of accepting that the business had outgrown. Don't. My voice was sharp enough that people at nearby tables looked over. I lowered it. Don't you dare pretend this was about business. You came back to Seattle specifically to take everything from me. The firm, my reputation, my future. And you did it because you're a coward who can't live with what you did to Claire. Daniel's face went white. What are you talking about? She didn't tell you. I looked at Rachel. You said you told him everything. I told him about the journal, Rachel said carefully. About my feelings of guilt regarding Claire's death. But Vivian, what's in that journal is private. It's my way of processing grief. It's a confession. I pulled out my phone, clicked on video file 03, and turned the screen toward Daniel. Watch. For 3 minutes, nobody spoke. Daniel stared at the phone screen, watching Claire's car lose control, watching it flip, watching his wife film the whole thing. When it ended, he looked up at Rachel with an expression I couldn't read. You killed her, he said. You actually killed Claire Harper. I didn't mean to. You sabotaged her brakes. You followed her. You filmed her dying. His voice was rising now. Rachel, what the fuck did you do? I was trying to buy time. Rachel's calm mask was cracking. Claire was going to tell Vivian about us, about the affair. I just wanted her car to break down so she'd miss her conference, so I'd have a few more days to figure things out. So you tried to kill her? No, I just loosened a few bolts. I thought she'd notice the brakes weren't working right and take the car to a mechanic. I didn't think she'd get on the highway. I didn't think she'd keep driving when... But she did. Daniel stood up. His chair scraped loudly against the floor. She did keep driving, and she died, and you just... What ran away kept it secret for 5 years while I mourned her. You were mourning Vivian's sister, not Claire. Rachel was crying now. You barely knew Claire, but I knew her. She was my friend, and I killed her. Do you think I don't live with that every single day? I think you lived with it pretty well, I said quietly. Well enough to come back and destroy my life. Well enough to marry Daniel and go on a honeymoon cruise. Well enough to pretend you deserve happiness. Rachel turned to me. Her face was wet with tears, but her eyes were hard. I don't deserve happiness. I know that. But Daniel does. And he couldn't be happy with you. You were too buried in grief, too absent. He needed someone who could actually see him. So you gave him that? The woman who killed his girlfriend's sister. He didn't know. He knows now. I stood up. And now you need to decide what you're going to do about it. We're meeting at 2 a.m. on the observation deck. You, me, Daniel. And the truth. No more lies. No more running. You're going to tell me exactly what happened, and then we're going to figure out what justice looks like for Claire." I walked away before either of them could respond. Behind me, I heard Daniel say, "Rachel, I need you to tell me right now. Did you come back to Seattle to be with me, or did you come back to make sure Vivian never found out what you did?" I didn't hear her answer. 11:30 p.m. Crew bar. Marcus was waiting for me with 2 shots of whiskey on the table. "You look like you need these," he said. I took both shots, one after the other. The burn felt good, felt real. "I showed Daniel the video," I said, he said, "of Claire's crash, of Rachel filming it." "How did he react? Like a man who just found out his wife is a murderer?" I laughed, but it had no humor in it. He looked devastated, like his whole world just collapsed. "Good, he deserves that." "Does he?" I asked. "Daniel didn't kill anyone. He's just guilty of being weak, of choosing comfort over truth, of being so desperate for someone to see him that he didn't ask questions about why Rachel suddenly had millions to invest in architecture firms." "That's more than weakness, Vivian. That's willful ignorance." "Maybe. Or maybe Daniel was just human, just someone who wanted to believe that good things could happen to him without a cost. We all wanted to believe that." "What's your plan for tonight?" Marcus asked. "You're not actually going to meet Rachel alone, are you?" "You said you'd be there." "I said I'd be nearby. But Vivian, think about this. Rachel has already killed one person to protect her secrets. If she thinks you're going to turn her in, if she thinks you're going to destroy her life the way she destroyed yours, what's to stop her from pushing you overboard and claiming it was suicide? Witnesses. You. Security cameras. The observation deck has blind spots. I checked. There are 3 sections where cameras don't reach." He pulled out his phone, showed me a map. "Here, here, and here. If Rachel wanted to kill you, she'd do it in one of those spots. Then we make sure the meeting happens in a camera zone. Or," Marcus said slowly, "we don't have the meeting at all. We take the journal and the videos to the captain. Let him handle it. Rachel gets arrested when we dock in 3 days. She faces trial. Justice happens." It was the smart choice, the safe choice. But I didn't want safe. I wanted to look Rachel in the eye and make her say it. Make her admit that she'd valued her own comfort more than my sister's life. I wanted her to feel what I'd felt for 5 years, the crushing weight of guilt, the knowledge that you failed someone who trusted you. I wanted her to suffer. "I'm going to the meeting," I said, "with or without you." Marcus studied me for a long moment. Then he sighed. "Fine, but we're doing this smart. I'll be there hidden. If things go wrong, if she tries anything, I'll intervene. And Vivian, yeah. Don't go near the railings. Don't give her any opportunities. And don't expect her to break down and confess. People like Rachel don't confess unless they have no other choice." 8:45 a.m. Deck 12, staff corridor. I changed out of my uniform, put on jeans and a dark hoodie, tied my hair back. If this was going to be my last night on this ship, either because security arrested me or because Rachel pushed me overboard, I wanted to face it as myself, not as Vivian the server, but as Vivian Harper, architect, sister survivor. The ship was quiet at this hour. Most passengers were asleep. The only people awake were crew members finishing late shifts and insomniacs walking the decks. I took the stairs to Deck 16, the highest observation deck usually reserved for sunrise viewing. At night it was deserted. The ocean stretched out in every direction. Black water under a half moon. No land in sight. We were somewhere between Juneau and Glacier Bay, the ship cutting through dark water like a knife through silk. Marcus was already there, sitting on a bench in the shadows. He nodded when he saw me. Didn't speak. I walked to the railing, looked down at the water 6 decks below. It would be so easy, I thought, to just let go, to give up, to stop fighting. 5 years of grief, 6 months of poverty, and now this proof that my sister's death was murder, not accident, that I'd been blaming myself for something I couldn't have prevented. It should have felt like relief. Instead, it felt like drowning. "I don't know if I can do this," I said quietly. Marcus appeared beside me. "Then don't. We can leave right now. Go to the captain. Let the system handle it." "The system," I laughed bitterly. "The system ruled Claire's death an accident 5 years ago. The system let Rachel walk away without ever asking questions. The system destroyed my business and left me serving drinks on a cruise ship. Why would I trust the system now? Because the alternative is becoming someone you're not, Marcus said. I know what you're thinking, Vivian. I know what revenge feels like. How seductive it is. How right it seems. You said you missed something, that someone died because you weren't paying attention. My wife, Isabel. His voice was rough. She was being stalked by a guy from her gym. He'd show up wherever she was. Call her at weird hours. She filed reports. I looked into it, did the bare minimum because I was busy with other cases. Told her to get a restraining order. Thought that would be enough. It wasn't. 3 months later, he cornered her in a parking garage. Made it look like a robbery. By the time I realized what had happened, he'd left the state. Marcus turned to look at me. I spent 2 years tracking him down. 2 years planning what I'd do when I found him. How I'd make him suffer the way Isabel suffered. Did you find him? Yeah, in Portland. Living under a fake name. Working as a security guard, if you can believe it. Marcus's hands gripped the railing. I followed him for a week. Learned his routine. Figured out when he'd be alone. I had a gun. Had a plan. Was going to shoot him and dump his body in the Columbia River. What stopped you? I asked myself what Isabel would want. And I knew she wouldn't want me to become a killer for her. Wouldn't want me to throw away my life, my career, my future just to make her death mean something. He paused. So I arrested him instead. Turned over all the evidence I'd gathered. He's serving 25 years. That's justice. It's closure, Marcus corrected. Justice is just a word we use when we're too tired to keep fighting. But closure, that's when you can finally breathe again. When the past stops choking you. Behind us, footsteps. I turned. Rachel stood at the entrance to the observation deck, alone. She looked smaller than she had at dinner, fragile. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. No makeup. She wore jeans and a sweater that looked like it belonged to Daniel. I came alone, she said, like you asked. Where's Daniel? In our cabin. He doesn't want to see me right now. Her voice cracked. He said he needs time to process, to figure out if he can live with what I did. Can he? Rachel's eyes filled with tears. I don't know. Probably not. Who could? She walked slowly to the railing, keeping distance between us. Marcus had moved back into the shadows, but I knew he was watching. So, Rachel said, here we are. What now? Now you tell me the truth. All of it. Why you really came back to Seattle. Why you destroyed my business. Why you married Daniel. And why you kept those videos for 5 years. Rachel was quiet for a long moment. Then she started talking. I kept the videos because I'm a coward, she said simply. I couldn't turn myself in. Couldn't face prison or trial or your grief. But I also couldn't let myself forget. So I created my own punishment. Every time I felt happy, every time I thought about moving on, I'd watch those videos. I'd remember what I did. I'd remind myself that I didn't deserve peace. So you lived in San Francisco, made money, built a life. I built a prison, Rachel corrected. A very comfortable, very lucrative prison. I invested in startups, made good money, but I didn't have friends, didn't date, didn't do anything except work and watch those videos and hate myself. Sounds lonely. It was, but it was what I deserved. She wiped her eyes. And then last year I saw an article about Daniel, about Harper and Associates winning some award, and I thought, what if you could have your happy ending after all? What if I could fix what I broke? Rachel said. Daniel and I were supposed to be together. We were supposed to have a baby and build a life. But I lost the baby and ran away and ruined everything. And when I saw that article, I thought maybe if I could go back, if I could restart that timeline, then Claire's death would have meant something. Would have served a purpose. Claire's death served a purpose. Are you fucking kidding me? I know how that sounds. You killed my sister so you could steal my boyfriend and feel better about yourself. That's what you're saying. No, Rachel's voice rose. I killed Claire by accident. I didn't mean for her to die. But after she was gone, after I'd already destroyed everything, I thought maybe I could at least salvage something good from it. Give Daniel the life we should have had. Give myself a reason to keep living instead of killing myself every night. So you came back, contacted Daniel, started an affair. I offered to invest in Harper & Associates, said I wanted to expand sustainable architecture. Daniel was excited. You were distant, buried in your memorial garden projects. He felt invisible around you. Because I was grieving my sister, the sister you killed. I know. Rachel's voice was barely a whisper now. I know. And I used your grief against you. I encouraged Daniel to spend more time with me. I made him feel seen, appreciated, valued. Everything you weren't giving him because you were too busy punishing yourself. For something I didn't do, I spent 5 years thinking I killed Claire by refusing to drive her that morning. 5 years of guilt that should have been yours. I know, Rachel said again. And I'm sorry. Vivian, I'm so fucking sorry. If I could take it back, if I could undo any of it, but you can't. So instead you decided to take everything else from me too. My business, my home, my future. You didn't just kill Claire. You killed me too, just slowly, over 6 months, instead of 6 seconds. Rachel was sobbing now. I thought if I erased you, I could erase the guilt. If Vivian Harper didn't exist anymore, then Claire Harper's death would just be collateral damage in a love story. Just one sad thing that happened on the way to happiness. Did it work? She shook her head. No, it made everything worse. Because now I have to live with 2 deaths, Claire's and yours. And Daniel. God, Daniel. He looks at me now like I'm a monster, like I'm someone he doesn't even know. You are someone he doesn't know, I said. The woman he fell in love with doesn't exist. She never did. You've been playing a role for 20 years. The girl who lost a baby, the investor who believes in sustainable architecture, the wife who just wants a second chance. But none of that is real. The only real thing about you is that you're a killer. I know. Say it louder. What? Say it out loud. I killed Claire Harper. Rachel looked at me with red, swollen eyes. Then she turned to face the ocean. I killed Claire Harper, she said, her voice carrying over the sound of the waves. I sabotaged her car. I caused her death. I'm a murderer. Again. I killed Claire Harper. I'm a murderer. Again. I killed Claire Harper. Rachel screamed it now, the words tearing out of her. I killed her. I'm a coward and a killer, and I don't deserve to live. She collapsed against the railing, sobbing so hard her whole body shook. I stood there watching her fall apart and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no relief, no closure. Just emptiness where my sister used to be. What do you want from me? Rachel asked through her tears. You want me to turn myself in? I will. You want me to go to prison? I'll go. You want me to kill myself? Just say the word and I'll jump right now. I don't want you dead, I said quietly. I want Claire alive, but I can't have that. So I guess I'll settle for the truth. I pulled out my phone, held it up so she could see I'd been recording. Everything you just said about Claire, about the videos, about destroying my business, I have it all on tape. With your permission, I'm going to turn it over to the Seattle police when we dock. You'll be arrested, charged with manslaughter probably, maybe criminally negligent homicide. You'll go to trial. You'll go to prison. And Daniel will have to decide if he wants to be married to a convicted killer. My guess he won't. So you'll lose him too, just like you lost me, just like you lost Claire. Rachel nodded slowly. Okay, that's fair. That's more than fair. But, I continued, I need something from you first. Anything. I need you to tell Daniel the whole truth, not just about Claire, about why you really came back, about how you used his grief and loneliness to manipulate him, about how you destroyed my business just to isolate him. I need you to make him understand that this wasn't about love. It was about guilt and selfishness and your desperate need to rewrite history. He'll hate me. He should hate you. You used him. You made him complicit in destroying someone's life. You made him into someone who hurts people without even knowing it. That's worse than what you did to Claire. At least with Claire, you knew what you were doing. Rachel was quiet for a long time. Then she said, what if I tell him and he forgives me anyway? What if he decides he'd rather have me monster and all than be alone? Then you'll have to live with that guilt too, knowing that he's choosing you out of weakness instead of love. Knowing that every time he looks at you, he's seeing the woman who killed an innocent person and got away with it for 5 years. I paused. Can you live with that, Rachel? Can you wake up next to Daniel every morning knowing he's only there because he's too weak to leave? I don't know, she whispered. Figure it out, I said. You have 3 days until we dock. 3 days to decide if you're going to keep playing the victim or finally accept that you're the villain in this story. I turned to leave. Vivian, Rachel called after me. For what it's worth, Claire loved you. The night before she died, when I begged her not to tell you about the affair, she said Vivian deserves the truth. She deserves better than lies. She was protecting you even then. The words hit me like a physical blow. She was always protecting you, Rachel continued. From our parents fighting, from college stress, from anything that might hurt you. She said you'd already given up so much of your own life to raise her after your dad left. Said it was her turn to take care of you for once. I couldn't breathe. So that morning when she called and asked you to drive her, she wasn't really asking for a ride. She was testing you, seeing if you'd choose her or your career. And when you chose the career, she proved to herself that I didn't need her anymore. I finished, that she could stop protecting me and live her own life. And then I killed her 5 hours later, Rachel said flatly. So no, Vivian, you didn't kill Claire, I did. But you did lose your chance to tell her you loved her one more time. And I'm sorry for that. For all of it. 3:00 a.m. Crew quarters. Marcus walked me back to my cabin. We didn't talk. There was nothing left to say. At my door, he handed me a business card. That's my brother. He's a defense attorney in Seattle. If you need help with the police reports, the trial stuff, he'll take care of you. No charge. Why are you helping me? Because 5 years ago, someone should have helped you ask the right questions about Claire's death. Maybe if they had, you wouldn't have spent half a decade blaming yourself. He paused. And because I know what it's like to want revenge so badly you can taste it, I'm glad you chose justice instead. Did Rachel's not arrested yet? We don't dock for 3 days. A lot can happen in 3 days. You're not going to kill her, Vivian. How do you know? Because you recorded her confession instead of pushing her overboard when you had the chance. Because you gave her 3 days to tell Daniel the truth instead of destroying her life immediately. Because you're the kind of person who serves tables and saves every penny to rebuild your life instead of giving up. Marcus smiled slightly. You're stronger than Rachel. Stronger than Daniel. Stronger than anyone gives you credit for. Don't prove them right by becoming what they think you are. After he left, I lay in my bunk and stared at the ceiling. Around me, 7 other women breathed in sleep. Lena muttered something in Tagalog. Someone else snored softly. I pulled out my phone, opened my photos, found the picture of Claire, Rachel, and me at Pike Place Market. We looked so young, so happy, so convinced that friendship and love were simple things that couldn't be broken by mistakes or time or death. I'd been wrong about so many things, but Claire had been right about one thing. I deserved the truth, and now I had it. Day 4, 11:00 a.m. I woke up to Sofia Martinez shaking my shoulder. Get up, she said. Security wants to see you. My stomach dropped. What, someone filed a complaint. Said you've been harassing passengers. Come on. I dressed quickly, followed Sofia to the security office on deck 5. My mind was racing. Had Rachel changed her mind? Decided to turn me in before I could turn her in. But when we got to the security office, Daniel was there. Not Rachel, just Daniel. He looked like he hadn't slept. His eyes were red-rimmed. His clothes were wrinkled. He was holding a coffee cup, but not drinking from it. Mr. Kim, the security chief said, a stern woman named Officer Rodriguez. This is Vivian Harper, the crew member you wanted to speak with. Daniel looked at me. Can we talk alone? Officer Rodriguez frowned. Mr. Kim, if you're accusing Ms. Harper of theft... I'm not, Daniel said quickly. I made a mistake. The item I thought was stolen. My wife found it. It was just misplaced. But I need to speak with Vivian about something else. Something personal. Rodriguez looked between us. You have 5 minutes. Conference room B. I'll be right outside. She led us to a small room with a table and 4 chairs. Left the door open a crack. Daniel sat down heavily. I remained standing. Rachel told me everything, he said without preamble. Last night after you left. She told me about the videos, about how she's kept them for 5 years, about how she came back to Seattle specifically to erase you. I know. I didn't know Vivian. I swear to God I didn't know any of it. I thought Rachel came back because she wanted to invest in sustainable architecture, because she believed in what we were building. I didn't know she was using me to destroy you. Did you know about the affair 5 years ago, when you were still with me? Daniel's face crumpled. Yes. Rachel and we reconnected at a conference in Portland. We started emailing, then meeting for coffee, then... He stopped. I was weak. You were distant, buried in grief over Claire. And Rachel understood what I was going through because she was grieving too. Except she wasn't grieving. She was guilty. There's a difference. I know that now. Daniel rubbed his face. Jesus, Vivian. She killed Claire. She actually killed her. And I've been sleeping next to her for 3 months, completely oblivious. Welcome to my world. I spent 5 years thinking I was responsible for Claire's death. Turns out we were both living with a killer and didn't know it. What are you going to do? I'm going to turn her in when we dock in Seattle. I have her confession recorded. I have the videos. She'll be arrested. Daniel nodded slowly. Good. That's good. She needs to face consequences. And what are you going to do? File for divorce, obviously. Jesus Christ, I can't stay married to someone who... He stopped, took a shaky breath. I loved her, Vivian. I really thought we could have a second chance. I thought we were building something real. You were building it on my sister's grave. I know, and I have to live with that. But I didn't know. That has to count for something. Does it? I leaned against the table. You didn't know Rachel killed Claire, but you did know you were destroying my business. You did know that Veronica Castellanos, who was really Rachel using a fake name, was systematically driving me out of the firm we built together. And you let it happen. You looked the other way because it was easier than fighting for me. I thought you wanted out, Daniel said desperately. Rachel told me you were tired, burnt out, that you wanted to sell your share and retire early. I thought I was helping you by not fighting it. And you believed her because it was convenient. Because if I wanted out, you didn't have to feel guilty about moving on with Rachel. I shook my head. You're not a killer, Daniel, but you're not innocent either. You're just weak, and your weakness cost me everything. I know, and I'm sorry. Vivian, I'm so goddamn sorry. He was crying now. I never meant to hurt you. I loved you. For 12 years I loved you, and then I got scared that you didn't love me back anymore, and I ran straight into Rachel's arms. I'm a coward. A fucking coward. Yes, you are. He looked up at me with something like hope in his eyes. Can you ever forgive me? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Could I forgive Daniel Kim for being weak? For choosing comfort over integrity? For letting Rachel manipulate him into destroying my life? I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe someday, but not today, and definitely not while you're still married to my sister's killer. I'm divorcing her as soon as we dock. Good. And Daniel, when you're single again and trying to rebuild your life, remember what it felt like to have everything taken from you. Remember how it feels to trust someone and have them destroy you. And maybe next time you'll fight a little harder for the people you claim to love. I walked out of the conference room before he could respond. 2:00 p.m., Sapphire Restaurant. Sophia had reassigned table 12 to Maya. I was grateful. I couldn't face Rachel again. Not yet. Instead, I served a family of 4 from Texas who complained about everything: the temperature, the portion sizes, the fact that their water had ice in it, even though they definitely hadn't asked for no ice. It was exactly what I needed. Simple problems, simple solutions. No murders or betrayals or 5-year-old secrets. At 3:15 p.m., Maya grabbed my arm. Table 12 wants to talk to you. I'm not their server anymore. I know, but the woman Rachel she asked specifically for you said it's important. I looked across the restaurant. Rachel was sitting alone at table 12. No Daniel, no champagne. Just a cup of tea she wasn't drinking. Against my better judgment, I walked over. What do you want to give you this? Rachel slid an envelope across the table. It's a check for $2 million. From my personal account, not from Stellar Ventures. I stared at the envelope. What the hell is this restitution? Harper & Associates was worth approximately $4 million when we forced you to sell. You got half that in the sale. This is the other half plus interest. She paused. It won't fix what I did. It won't bring Claire back, but maybe it'll help you rebuild. I don't want your guilt money. It's not guilt money. It's what you're owed, what I stole from you. Rachel's voice was flat, empty. Take it or don't, but either way it's yours. I picked up the envelope, opened it. Inside was a check made out to Vivian Harper for $2 million. $2 million, enough to start a new firm, enough to never serve another table or share a cabin with 7 other women. Enough to rebuild the life Rachel had stolen. Why? I asked. Because I told Daniel the truth, the whole truth, about how I manipulated him, about how I destroyed your business specifically to isolate him, about how none of this was ever about love. It was about guilt and selfishness and my desperate need to rewrite history. Rachel's eyes were red, but she wasn't crying. He left me, packed his bags and moved to a different cabin, filed for divorce from his phone. I'm going to spend the rest of this cruise alone in a suite I can't escape, waiting to be arrested when we dock. Good. I also did something else. Rachel pulled out her phone, showed me an email draft. I wrote to the Seattle police, confessed everything, attached the videos, told them to arrest me as soon as the ship docks. I'm copying you on the email before I send it. That way you have proof that I'm turning myself in voluntarily. I read the email. It was comprehensive, detailed, left nothing out. Why are you doing this? Because you were right. I'm the villain in this story. And villains don't get happy endings. They get consequences. Rachel closed her phone. And because Claire deserves justice. Real justice. Not just me feeling guilty for the rest of my life. She deserves to have her death acknowledged as a murder, not an accident. She deserves for people to know what happened to her. She deserves to be alive. Yes, but I can't give her that. So I'm giving her this instead. Rachel stood up. I'm sorry, Vivian. For Claire, for your business. For making you spend 5 years thinking you were responsible for something I did. I'm sorry for all of it. She walked away before I could respond. I sat at table 12 holding a check for $2 million and tried to figure out what justice actually meant. Day 5, Glacier Bay. The ship anchored in Glacier Bay at dawn. I stood on the crew deck watching ice calve from glaciers that had existed for thousands of years. Giant chunks of blue-white ice crashed into the water with sounds like thunder. Each collapse sent waves rippling outward, rocking our ship gently. Marcus appeared beside me with 2 coffees. Thought you might need this. Thanks. We watched the glaciers in silence for a while. Then Marcus said, I heard Rachel sent an email to Seattle PD, turned herself in. Yeah. And I heard she wrote you a check for $2 million. News travels fast on this ship. Sophia told me. She said you looked shell-shocked when you came back to the crew quarters last night. He paused. What are you going to do with the money? I don't know. Open a new firm, probably. Do the work I used to do before Rachel destroyed everything. I took a sip of coffee. But I won't name it after myself this time. I think I'll call it Claire's Legacy Design. Focus on memorial projects, healing spaces for people who've lost someone. Claire would like that. Maybe. Or maybe she'd tell me to stop living in the past and build something forward-looking instead. I smiled slightly. She was always the brave one. Always pushing me to take risks. Sounds like she got that from you. No, she got it from our dad. He was a dreamer, always chasing the next big idea, the next adventure. Our mom hated it, wanted stability routine. They divorced when Claire was 8. Dad moved to Alaska. We barely heard from him after that. Did Claire ever see him again? Once, right before she died, actually. She'd planned the Seattle conference specifically because he was going to meet her there. They were going to have dinner. Try to reconnect. I felt tears prick my eyes. She never made it. And our dad? He came to the funeral, stood in the back, didn't talk to anyone, just disappeared after. Do you know where he is now? No, and honestly, I don't care. He wasn't there when we needed him. Why should I track him down now? But even as I said it, I knew I was lying. Part of me wanted to find our father, wanted to tell him what really happened to Claire, wanted to ask if he blamed me the way I'd blamed myself, wanted to hear him say it wasn't my fault. Vivian, Marcus said gently, you know you didn't kill Claire, right? You know that refusing to drive her that morning wasn't murder. I know. Intellectually, I know. But emotionally, I shook my head. For 5 years, I've been living with the belief that I failed her, that I chose my career over her life. And now I find out the real killer was my best friend, and I still can't shake the feeling that I should have known, should have suspected, should have asked more questions. You couldn't have known. But I should have. Claire called both of us that morning, me and Rachel. We both said no, and then she died. If I'd just said yes, if I'd just driven her like she asked, Rachel wouldn't have had the opportunity to sabotage her car. Or Rachel would have found another way, another time, another method. Marcus turned to face me. People like Rachel, people who are desperate enough to kill, they don't stop after one failed attempt. If Claire had stayed home that day, Rachel would have just waited for another opportunity. You didn't cause Claire's death by saying no. Rachel caused it by deciding her comfort was worth more than someone else's life. I wish I could believe that. You will. Eventually. He paused. It took me 3 years to stop blaming myself for Isabel's death. 3 years to accept that I couldn't have saved her just by paying more attention. The stalker was going to kill her no matter what I did. I was just the convenient scapegoat for my own grief. We watched another chunk of glacier collapse into the bay. The sound echoed across the water like a gunshot. How much longer until we dock in Seattle? I asked. 2 days. We have one more stop in Victoria, British Columbia tomorrow, then Seattle the day after. And then Rachel gets arrested. And then you get your life back. But I wasn't sure I wanted my old life back. Wasn't sure the person I'd been before, ambitious, driven, so focused on success that I'd missed warning signs everywhere, was someone worth becoming again. Maybe Claire's legacy design would be different. Maybe this time I'd build something that actually mattered. Something that helped people heal instead of just making me rich. Marcus, I sad-eyed said. Thank you for helping me, for being there last night, for not letting me do something stupid. You're welcome, but Vivian, you don't need me. You never did. You're the strongest person I've met in 5 years of working these ships. You just don't know it yet. Day 6, Victoria, British Columbia. Most passengers went ashore for the Victoria excursion. Daniel went. Rachel didn't.